Most people walk through life assuming the future is theirs. They map it out in their minds like engineers drafting a building. Meticulous timelines, precise milestones, the perfect sequence of events. They believe that if they simply exert enough intelligence, discipline, or willpower, the world will bend to match their design. And of course, we should plan. Order is necessary. Without it, we collapse into chaos. But here's the problem. Planning can quietly morph into a dangerous illusion, the belief that tomorrow is guaranteed, that the next chapter of your life is entirely yours to write without interruption. That is an unspoken arrogance we rarely admit to ourselves. Think about it. When was the last time you actually considered the fragility of the next 24 hours? Not in a morbid sense, but in the sober, unromantic truth that you may not be here for them. We are fragile beings standing on a fragile stage, and yet we act as though the set will remain intact indefinitely. History tells a different story. The graves are filled with people who, just the day before, had plans for the week ahead. People with unfinished conversations, unpursued dreams, and a calendar full of events they would never attend. The illusion of control is seductive because it feels safe. If you believe you have the power to orchestrate tomorrow, then you can silence the anxiety that comes from uncertainty. But it's a counterfeit form of security. It's like gripping the steering wheel of a car that's not even turned on. You feel in control, but you're going nowhere. Reality doesn't care about our mental scripts. An unexpected phone call can rewrite your month. A diagnosis can change your life in a single sentence. A tragedy can collapse your sense of stability before you even finish breakfast. I'm not saying this to provoke fear. Fear is not the right teacher here. What I'm pointing toward is humility, a posture of mind and heart that recognizes the boundaries of human power. Humility says, I will plan as if I have tomorrow, but I will live knowing it belongs to God. That acknowledgement alone dismantles a dangerous pride, the kind that blinds us to the truth that we are not the ultimate authors of our story. This is where philosophy meets faith in a very practical way. Philosophically, you can argue that the future doesn't exist. It's a concept, a projection. All that truly exists is the present moment. Faith goes further and says, not only is the future not here yet, it's in the hands of a higher intelligence, a sovereign will that operates beyond our calculations. Whether you are deeply religious or not, there's wisdom in recognizing that the forces shaping tomorrow are larger than you. Even the most powerful people, presidents, billionaires, generals, cannot dictate the sunrise, and yet we cling to the fantasy. We plan obsessively not to prepare wisely, but to feel safe. But here's the irony: the tighter you try to grip tomorrow, the more anxious you become. Why? Because deep down, you know it's not yours. That's why people who build their sense of identity and stability on tomorrow's promises tend to crumble when uncertainty comes. They didn't anchor themselves to the only day they truly had. There's a psychological danger here, too. When you believe tomorrow is yours, you start postponing life. You say, I'll apologize later. I'll take care of my health next month. I'll start writing that book when the timing is right. And without realizing it, you've handed over your life to a date on the calendar that may never arrive. This is how dreams die. Not because people lack talent or opportunity, but because they assumed they'd have more time. Now, does this mean we throw out our planners and live like reckless wanderers? Of course not. Wisdom is not found in swinging to extremes. You still prepare, you still set goals, but you hold them with open hands. You acknowledge that no matter how perfect the blueprint, the final draft is subject to revision by forces beyond you. That mindset changes how you live today. It pulls you into the present with a sharp awareness. This is the only time you are actually in possession of. This hour, this conversation, this choice, these are yours. Tomorrow is not. And here's the unexpected beauty. When you stop pretending to own tomorrow, you start living today with more focus, gratitude, and depth. You stop postponing kindness. You stop delaying courage. You stop waiting for the right time to do the thing you know you should do. Because the right time might never come, and in the end, all you ever really had was now. The illusion of control has to be shattered for you to live fully. And the truth that shatters it is simple: tomorrow belongs to God. You can either fight that truth, exhausting yourself trying to hold a future that's not yours, or you can accept it and live with a grounded freedom. That's not resignation, it's alignment. It's the humility to do your best with what you've been given, and the wisdom to release what is not yours to hold. So I leave you with this: stop bargaining with a day you haven't been promised. Stop staking your peace on a sunrise you may never see. Live today so fully, so intentionally, that if tomorrow never arrives, you won't need it to justify your life. Because the moment you truly understand that tomorrow belongs to God, you start living like today belongs to you. And that changes everything. If tomorrow belongs to God, then the only real currency you have is today. And that means every wasted hour is not simply lost time. It is a form of ingratitude. It's saying, I know I've been given this day, but I'll treat it as though it doesn't matter because I expect another one. That's the dangerous assumption. We treat life like an endless stream of tomorrows, as if there will always be another sunrise, another opportunity, another chance to make things right. But what if there isn't? What if the conversation you keep postponing never happens? What if the act of kindness you plan to do later dies with the setting sun? We don't like thinking this way because it forces us to confront the fragility of our existence. It strips away the illusion of permanence and demands that we act now. The urgency of today is not about panic. It's not about living frantically, trying to cram a lifetime into a single day. It's about a deliberate sharpening of your focus, an awareness that this day is yours in a way that no other day is. Tomorrow may be a gift, but today is a responsibility. Philosophically, this is tied to the idea of moral agency. You are not responsible for what you cannot control, and you cannot control tomorrow. You are responsible for what you can control, and that is what you say, what you do, and how you live now. Yet, so many people abandon the present in pursuit of an imagined future. They let today slip away while their eyes are fixed on something that isn't here yet. That's how dreams die quietly, not with some dramatic failure, but through thousands of small moments where people choose distraction, procrastination, and delay over action. The danger of ignoring today is subtle. It hides in the way we justify small compromises. I'll start eating better next week. I'll call my parents tomorrow. I'll work on my goals when things calm down. Those sound harmless, but stack them up over years, and you'll realize you've built a life of unfulfilled intentions. The gap between who you are and who you could be doesn't open up in one giant leap. It's carved slowly, day by day. In the space where action should have been, there's a reason procrastination feels comfortable. It gives you the illusion of progress without requiring any sacrifice. When you delay something important, you still feel in control. You think, I've decided to do it later. But in reality, you've surrendered the only time you truly had. You've gambled it away on a tomorrow you may never see. And if tomorrow belongs to God, that's a gamble you can't afford to keep making. Urgency is not recklessness. It's not burning yourself out by trying to do everything at once. Urgency is clarity. It's knowing what matters most and refusing to let it slide to the bottom of the list. It's choosing the phone call over the mindless scroll. It's choosing the workout over another hour of excuses. It's telling the truth instead of letting resentment grow for another day. Psychologically, there's a profound shift when you realize that now is the only stage on which you can act. The future is a theory. The past is a memory. The present is the only reality where your choices actually change something. If you understand this, then you stop treating today as a warm-up for real life and start treating it as the main event. This also changes the way you view setbacks. If you believe tomorrow is yours, you might say, I'll start over next week, and you push the reset button endlessly. But when you know you don't own tomorrow, you recover in the present. You make the adjustment now. You apologize now. You take the step forward now. You don't waste time waiting for the perfect restart, because the perfect restart is the moment you decide to move forward again. Think of how differently you'd live if you truly absorbed this truth. You'd stop speaking as if you have unlimited chances. You'd treat every opportunity as though it might be the last time it knocks on your door. You'd pursue your goals with a seriousness that comes from knowing the clock is ticking, and that each tick is a gift. That seriousness doesn't make you rigid. It makes you intentional. It gives weight to your words and depth to your actions. And here's the paradox: when you embrace the urgency of today, you actually live more peacefully. Because you're no longer haunted by the "I should have" and "I'll get to it later" that plagues so many people. You close loops in the present. You live without the mental clutter of deferred actions. That mental clarity is a byproduct of refusing to leave important things for a tomorrow that might not be yours to claim. I've seen people change their entire lives simply by shifting their relationship to today. They start small, making the call they've been avoiding, writing the first paragraph of the book they've been dreaming about, having the conversation they've put off for years. And that small shift compounds. It creates momentum. Because once you start respecting the value of today, you start stacking good days together. And stacked days build character, progress, and meaning. So the question becomes, what are you doing with the only day you have? Not the one you wish you had. Not the one you think you'll get next week. This one. The one you're breathing in right now. What actions could you take today that would move you closer to the life you say you want? What conversation could you start that would heal a relationship? What skill could you practice that would sharpen your future? Stop waiting for the stars to align. Stop assuming you'll get another shot. Because here's the hard truth: one day you won't, and you will not know in advance when that day arrives. That's why the urgency of today isn't just good advice. It's the only logical way to live in a world where tomorrow belongs to God. If you keep postponing life, you will wake up one day and realize you've run out of tomorrows to lean on. And by then, the regret will not be about the chances you took. It will be about the ones you kept telling yourself you would take later. So make today count. Act while you can. Speak while there's still someone to hear you. Love while the chance is still in front of you. Because when you truly understand that tomorrow belongs to God, you stop wasting the only thing that actually belongs to you. Today, when you finally accept that tomorrow belongs to God, something remarkable happens. You're freed from a burden you were never meant to carry. The burden of controlling what you cannot control. Most people live as though they are the general manager of the universe, constantly running mental simulations, trying to predict and preempt every possible outcome. They call it responsibility, but much of it is anxiety wearing the mask of prudence. It's exhausting and it's unsustainable. Because no matter how intelligent, disciplined, or strategic you are, life will still hand you circumstances you didn't anticipate and outcomes you didn't plan for. The moment you recognize that the future is not your property, you can stop trying to micromanage it. That doesn't mean you stop caring or preparing. It means you prepare without the obsessive need to control every variable. You do your part, and then you release it. This release is not laziness, it's trust. And trust, in this sense, is not some blind leap into wishful thinking. It's a sober recognition that the world is complex beyond your comprehension, and that the best way to live in it is to act with integrity today, then let tomorrow unfold in the hands of the one who owns it. The human mind craves certainty because uncertainty feels like chaos. And chaos, by its nature, is uncomfortable. We'd rather live with the illusion of control than admit that our influence over the future is limited. But here's the irony: the more you try to control the uncontrollable, the more unstable you become internally. Your peace hinges on every detail going according to plan, which means you're one unexpected event away from emotional collapse. A single disruption, a market crash, a betrayal, a diagnosis, can dismantle the fragile sense of safety you've built. Trust changes that. When you trust that tomorrow belongs to God, you create psychological resilience. You still feel the sting of disappointment, the pain of loss, the frustration of delay, but you're not crushed by them. Why? Because you never assumed those things were fully in your hands to begin with. You're anchored in something larger than your own plans, and that anchor holds even when the waves rise. Philosophically, This is where faith intersects with practicality. You don't have to be religious to see the wisdom in accepting that your control is finite. Even in purely secular terms, life operates with variables you can't account for. So the rational thing, the sane thing, is to focus on what is within your reach, release what is not, and live without the weight of impossible responsibilities. Faith simply gives that truth a face and a name. And here's the unexpected side effect. Trust doesn't just give you peace, it also gives you courage. People often think the opposite is true, that trusting God makes you passive. But it's actually the fearful person, the one trying to secure every outcome, who plays small. If you need every risk to be fully under your control, you'll only take steps where you've already calculated a guarantee. But when you trust, you can step forward without needing absolute certainty. You can take on challenges knowing that the outcome isn't entirely in your hands, and that's okay. That's why people of deep trust often appear unusually bold. They're not reckless, but they're not paralyzed by the possibility of failure either. This trust also changes how you handle success. When you believe tomorrow belongs to God, you don't see your achievements as entirely self-made. You understand that opportunity, timing, and unseen variables played a role. That keeps you humble. You work hard, yes, but you don't cling to the illusion that you alone are the master of your fate. That humility makes your victories sweeter, because you can enjoy them without the pressure of needing to maintain them through sheer force of will. And when the inevitable setbacks come, trust prevents you from spiraling into despair. You don't see difficulty as proof that you failed at life. You see it as part of the unfolding process, one you're not fully in charge of, but one you can still navigate faithfully. That perspective can't be faked. It has to be cultivated through repeated practice, facing uncertainty, doing what you can, and letting go of what you can't. Of course, letting go doesn't come naturally. We're conditioned from childhood to take control and make things happen. And yes, agency matters. But there's a difference between acting responsibly within your sphere of influence and trying to control things that belong outside of it. The first leads to strength, the second leads to burnout. Many people live in a constant state of mental overreach, stretching their worry into the territory of tomorrow. And the tragedy is, even if their predictions are right, they've already lived through the pain of an imagined disaster before it's even happened. When you trust that tomorrow belongs to God, you refuse to live twice through the same hardship, once in fear and once in reality. You decide you'll deal with tomorrow's problems when tomorrow arrives, and not a moment before. That doesn't mean you ignore potential challenges. It means you don't let them drain the life out of today. And here's where it all ties together with what we've been saying. If you kill the illusion of control and you embrace the urgency of today, trust becomes the natural third step. Without trust, urgency turns into anxiety. You're frantically trying to squeeze meaning out of every moment because you think you're the only one holding the universe together. But with trust, urgency becomes peace in motion. You act decisively now, knowing the future will be handled by the one who holds it. So the challenge is this: can you work hard, plan wisely, and still sleep peacefully at night without knowing exactly how tomorrow will unfold? Can you release the craving for control without sliding into complacency? Can you trust deeply enough to move forward without guarantees? That is the paradoxical strength of real trust. It doesn't make you passive, it makes you resilient. And maybe that's the deepest truth here. When you stop trying to own tomorrow, you start living with the strength of someone who can face anything today. You no longer need to predict every outcome to feel safe. You no longer need to win every battle to feel secure. You no longer need to have tomorrow in your hands to have peace in your heart. Because you've realized something most people never do. If tomorrow belongs to God, then you are free. Free to live, free to work, free to love, free to risk, free to rest. You are no longer enslaved to a future you can't control. And that freedom is worth more than all the false security in the world. So hold this truth tightly: tomorrow belongs to God. Your job is not to own it, but to be faithful with what's in front of you now. Because once you understand that, you stop living as a prisoner of uncertainty, and you start living as a person unshaken by it.